Just last week, a terrible tragedy in Israel was averted. Here's the backstory. There was a platoon of soldiers that was fighting in Gaza. It was the middle of the night, and they were advancing, building by building, street by street, to try to root out the enemy and to bring safety to everyone back in Eretz Israel. Back at the base camp, at the border of Gaza, there was a tent. And in that tent were computer screens and monitors. That's where the reconnaissance, that's where the intelligence, the eyes on the ground from the drones and the satellites was being fed into. And it's their job to make sure that if there happens to be a threat ahead of the advancing platoon, they notify them and they save their life. It's 2 a.m. One of the soldiers who was sitting at the computers is about to finish his shift. He says, you know what, let me take one last glance. He takes one last glance at the computer monitors and his blood freezes. He sees that not more than a few hundred meters away from the advancing platoon is a building, and in that building are many Hamas soldiers, and it seems like they have RPGs and they have all kinds of guns and stuff like that. And they're laying in ambush, waiting for this advancing platoon of soldiers. He quickly sounds the alarm. They halt the soldiers. They tell them to find cover. They bring in the Air Force. The Air Force shoots a missile. They neutralize the force, and they save the lives of the entire platoon. Later that day, the platoon came back to base camp near the Gaza border, and one of them happened to wander into the intelligence, the reconnaissance tent. And he sees this fellow who was now back on duty, and he's sitting by multiple computer screens, kind of leaning back. He's got a stack of snack bags. He's got the bisli and the bamba that was sent by kind people in Israel to the soldiers. And he tells the soldier, just on a whim, he says to him, take a look at the contrast between the two of us. I'm covered in mud, and I'm covered in muck and grime, and I'm fighting, and I'm putting my life on the line every moment that I'm out there in Gaza, and you're sitting here eating snacks, eating bamba. Very humbly, the fellow at the computer says, I want to share with you something that happened last night at 2 a.m. And he shares with him how he saved his life. The soldier is very moved. Obviously, he gets up and he gives a big hug to the fellow that was sitting at the computer, and he realizes that they're both critical for the safety of the platoon. This story is very empowering, because we may be sitting in the United States, in South Africa, or even in Israel, away from the battlefront. And we may think to ourselves, what we're doing is not important, and it's not true. Every tefillah, every kapitel of Tehillim that we say, every action, every chesed, every mitzvah that we do, every time we feel for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, that does something for the people on the ground. And we may be sitting in the comfort and the security of our own homes, but we can't minimize the importance. It's critical that we continue to daven, that we don't lose the feelings that we had in the beginning, that we continue to do mitzvahs, that we continue to do chesed, and we continue to take things to the next level, because everything that we do is critical. It makes a real difference.